Hello there, cat people. Dan the Catman here, and Michelle the Meow Maven.
Hello.
And welcome to what is this one? Welcome to episode 55 of the Shelter Cats podcast. We originally had a guest planned for this episode, but we experienced technical difficulties. So we're going to reschedule that guest for a later episode. And I accept the blame because we use a software called Riverside, and it sucks. It really sucks. Like, it sucks so bad. Riverside, if you're watching this, fix your shit because it sucks.
Yeah, it has not been very cooperative.
Fix your shit, have phone support because I'm having endless issues with this. And if anybody has any alternative podcast platforms and editing software, please let us know. You can make comments on Spotify and you can make comments on our YouTube channel. So please let us know. And if anybody would like to volunteer their editing skills, because I am a shitty editor, in case you haven't noticed. So if you'd like to donate out of the kindness of your heart to two adorable podcast hosts that want to that we host a podcast to better the lives of cats and help spread the word about shelter cats. If you want to donate your editing skills to this adorable podcast couple, please let us know in the comments, or you can email me, dan@tylerthecat.com. So with all that out of the way, we are going to do one of our, what did we call it? Feline Spotlight episodes.
Right.
Where we get to, because we're the hosts and we can talk about one of our cats, past or present, that have meant a lot to us.
Yeah.
And finally, I get to shut up because we're going to talk about Michelle's cat Monday.
Yes. As I just said to Dan, my little fur goblin. She was quite a fun cat, and I had her for about 20 years, so she lasted a long time.
So what is the history of Monday? The cat, not the day.
Well, let's see. It has to do with the lunar. No, never mind. I got her as a kitten from my friend Melissa. You may remember Melissa from our holiday episode earlier. She was a kitten. I brought her home, tiny, the usual, about 6 weeks old. I brought her home on a Monday, so she got the name Monday. Nothing really
convenient.
Yeah, it was a little lazy, but it was good. I liked the name for it. Kind of suited her, I think. And yeah, so I had her for about 20 years. She was with me across multiple apartments, across multiple relationships, across losing my father, um, buying a home, various jobs. So she was with me from, I guess it was my mid 20s. I guess my mid 20s to my mid 40s. So
that's like a big chunk of your life.
It really was. She was my little fluff ball, and I could never keep her unmatted. She did not like me to brush her, so I would, have the vet take care of her when I brought her in. Got her groomed a couple of times. She had this long, she was a tortoiseshell, beautiful, long-haired tortoiseshell, kind of a small cat if you ignored her fur. She was tiny underneath.
Does that mean a Persian tortoiseshell? Was she Persian?
No, it's a pattern. It was really just a pattern. It was like she was mostly black and like a dark gray black, but then she had like some kind of cream highlights throughout a little bit. But she was really she wasn't black, but she might as well have been a black cat because I couldn't see her at night.
You just sent me a picture. And very long haired, very, very dark. It was hard to discern any of the markings you were talking about.
So between the two of us, we had a lot of hair around the house all the time.
When I edit this, we'll insert the picture somewhere in here, so you'll get to see that. So how did you find her? How did you get her to begin with?
Yeah, she was just part of Melissa's. Melissa had a cat that had a litter of kittens, and she was one among the litter of kittens. And she had what looked like interesting markings on her face, so I chose her out of the bunch. And
did you know you were going to take one of the kittens, or was it like a last minute thing?
No, I think I was just up for a visit in general, and Melissa had I think she had a dog or two at the time, a cat or two at the time, and cat had kittens. So, like, okay, I'll take one. So when she first came home with me, it was the cutest little thing because I've always had this mess of hair. She would sleep like right here, nestled into my hair like I was her mommy, and she'd like knead into, make her little biscuits in my hair and kind of chew on my hair a little bit when I was sleeping. She would sleep on my head, and it was very adorable. Um and that was probably, I guess, maybe for about a year, and then I actually moved in. I had a roommate at the time, but then I moved out of that situation and moved in with somebody else who was allergic. So I wasn't actually able to bring her with me, unfortunately. But she stayed with my roommate, with the previous roommate. So he had custody. We so we we kind of call it shared custody. He had custody of her for a couple of years, and then both of our situations changed where he couldn't keep her, but I was no longer in my situation with the person that was allergic, so I took her back again, and then I had her from that point forward. So that was probably within the first like 4 years of her life. She went, back and forth to us, and then she stayed with me from that point forward, and she was a lovely, lovely cat until and I think I've hinted at this story, Dan. I don't think I ever told you the full story of her psychotic break. she had she had a
Calling
full
Stephen Quant.
she had a full on psychotic break. A friend of mine, Paul, came, and I was living in an apartment in the back. It was like the kind of the basement of a house. It was like the split level, and I was just the basement along the full back of the house. And Paul came to pick me up. We were going to go to the movies. So he came in. My living room is in the middle of the apartment. My bedroom was on one side, bathroom is on the other side. He's waiting in the living room. I went into the bedroom to finish, I don't know, get my shoes on or something. And when I came out of the bedroom, she was walking funny. Like she was walking like close to the ground. Like she was like, like stalking something, or like
Right, right,
it was
right.
really, and I was like, oh, that's weird. Why is she doing that? And then I looked down, and she had walked the length of the coffee table where I was walking along the one side. The couch was on the other side where Paul was. I was walking along. She walked the entire length of the coffee table over to the other end where I was. And I looked down, and she just kind of like looked up at me with this really weird look. And I'm like, oh, what's going on with this cat? So, cause she's my baby. I stick my hand out because I'm like, oh, let me see. Maybe I can, pet her, pick her up. See, she was always good about being picked up, loved to be held. And I put my hand out, and she sliced my hand and hissed at me. I was like, oh.
Wow.
And as far as I know, absolutely nothing happened, right? While I was in the bedroom with the door closed behind me. Of course, I always joked around to Paul that, what did you do to my cat while I was in there? But he didn't. He really wouldn't have. But um so now I'm on the opposite side of the apartment from where the door is. I can't get back to the door because every time I move, she's attacking my legs. She's
Wow.
she's uh, hunkered down under the coffee table. She jumping at my legs, clawing at my legs, scratching at me. Every time he would move his feet, she would swat and scratch at his feet. We couldn't get out. So eventually, what we wound up doing, actually, he like Paul climbed back on the back of the couch. We took the couch cushions and threw them around the edges of the coffee table to like kind of barricade her under the coffee table so that we could get out to the other side and leave the apartment. And then we left, and I was like, I still like stumped. Like, I don't
Yeah,
understand what happened.
like what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. And we're like just completely at odds. But so anyway, we were going to the movies, so we left. So maybe give her some time. Maybe she just, I don't know, something happened. She has gotten a snit. She just needs some time. So we left. We go to the movies. Maybe we went to dinner too. I don't really remember. Um, Came back home a few hours later, and I had my apartment had a couple of stairs to go down before you would open the door, kind of similar to what yours is. And then, so I go down the stairs, and I open the door a little crack, and she's sitting on the floor right I had the door open a couple of inches, maybe 6 inches at best. And she went up and she went,
Jeez.
Like, okay,
Cu- Cujo the cat.
still stumped. Don't really know what to do with this thing. So I said, all right, let's go to the store. Maybe I'll get some cat food. Maybe I'll do like a little peace offering. So we went, we got a couple of little cans of Fancy Feast. I come back home, pop open a can of Fancy Feast. I'm like, this'll do it. She'll love this. I can I opened the door, I put that on the floor, and then she literally went, looked down, and then looked back up at me. I was like, I don't even I was afraid to go into my house. I did not go into my apartment. I actually wound up staying the night at my friend's house
My God.
because I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I've never seen her like this before. This was completely, she was so sweet and calm and just, agreeable up until that point. So I spend the night over there. I come back home the next morning, and now I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna. I need to figure something out here. And it was probably a Saturday into a Sunday, I think. And I happened to have in my car, I was driving a van at the time, and I had like some pillows and blankets and stuff in the van. So I took a pillow and I went into the house like I'm a lion tamer. I'm holding pillow. And like I opened the door and and she was there again, right at the bottom of the door. And I opened the door and I like pushed it open, and I kind of like, with the pillow was
Brushed
able to
her
push
away.
her away. But the entire time she's hissing at me and she's snarling and just I was like, I don't know what to do. So, I had to be home. I had to do what I had to do. So I wound up spending most of my time in the bedroom with the door closed, keeping her out in the living room. If I had to, once I went out to the living room again, I'm out there with the pillow and everything. I called the vet the very next day. I'm like, I don't know what's going on here with this cat. She's never been like this before. Um, Somehow I was able to wrangle her into a carrier and get her, because I think she calmed down a little bit at one point,
Okay.
and I was able to get her into a carrier and bring her to the vet. And the only thing she wasn't fixed yet at that point. So the only thing the vet was like, well, maybe she needs to be fixed, and maybe it's hormonal, maybe. So we did that, and it seemed to calm her down a little bit, but from that point forward, she never ever interacted with anybody else ever again until I was in my house here, and maybe like a year or two before she passed. Then she finally like started warming up. But like she never, anybody else that came in the house, she swatted at them, she hissed at them, she did whatever. She became friendlier with me again, and she'd sit on my lap. We'd watch TV together. She'd sit there for hours just on my lap. I'd pick her up. She'd love to sit on my shoulder like a little parrot. And I told her I could just walk around the house. I could just do everything when I came home from work, and she'd just be up on my shoulder for hours. And
Okay,
and
but so you and her made up.
we made up. Somehow she accepted me again. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
It was I've never, I mean, and I've actually heard other stories of cats that just kind of flip like that, but it was such a, it was just, it was really unbelievable. And it was so shocking because she was not that kind of cat before that happened.
And
And
with friends from that point forward, she was always a little skittish.
not a little skittish. She would hiss and she would run and she would swat. She would meow at them.
Not hide, she would go after them.
She would do all of that and then go hide. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
One of your friends did something.
It I mean, it would have only been Paul that one particular, that
I'm
one night.
blaming. I don't know who Paul is. I'm blaming him.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, Paul is no longer around to defend himself. He has
I'm
also
sorry.
passed away.
I'm sorry,
But
Paul. It's still
that's
your fault, but I'm very
yeah,
sorry.
no, he knows. I always joked with him about it, but he would always say that like years later, 10, 15 years later, he would be telling the story, and he's like, oh yeah, and I have the scar on my Achilles heel to prove it. I'm like, you don't have a scar. There's no scar.
I have scars from some cats, so it's possible.
Yeah, I know. Um,
Wow.
but she really aside, it was just the craziest incident. But aside from that, this cat, we played fetch. She loved playing fetch, and a couple of her favorite things were plastic cutlery, especially knives for some reason. So
What about them?
she would, like, if I dropped them on the floor, she'd pick them up and run around with it. So she'd run around, with like the knife in her mouth. that particular apartment, I didn't really have a kitchen in that apartment. I just had like a little kind of kitchenette thing that was like an all-in-one sink refrigerator
Yep,
thing.
yep.
So I didn't have much storage. So I had like a coffee tin that where I would keep like all the plastic cutlery and like all the to go stuff. And she would constantly like pull stuff out of there. So I would wake up in the morning and I would well, she also liked playing fetch with crumpled up paper balls. So any little balls of paper. And those little like when you open up an orange juice container and you pull that little ring from the inside of the orange, the half gallon of orange juice, those little rings, loved them. So I would wake up in the morning almost every morning covered in balls of paper, those little plastic rings, and plastic knives.
She bring them and place them on you?
Because she wanted me to play fetch with her. She would come and drop them, like she'd think I would wake up and play fetch with her in the middle of the night. So she'd find something and then she'd drop it and then she'd go find something else and bring it and drop it. And it was,
I like this cat.
she had a lot of personality. She really did. Yeah.
And did you have any other cats along with her?
No, I just had her for the
You
20
had
years.
her the whole 20 years it was her alone?
When I bought the house, my mom moved in with me and she had a cat that she brought with her. Um, that cat passed away sure maybe within a year or so of being in the house. So it was maybe a year where the two of them cohabitated. And then it was just Monday by herself again. And then I got Legs.
Okay. So she knew legs.
Yeah, I got Legs and Quinn at the same time. Quinn passed shortly after we got him. He was sick when we got him. But she knew Legs. They had a difficult relationship in the beginning, but eventually they were fine, you know. Um,
Yeah, she lived alone for a very long time
yeah, yeah. But she
before
was
legs came
surprisingly,
in.
she was okay. Once even when those other, when we came here and we had my mom's cat or those others here, she was okay, you know. Um, she never again behaved like she did that one day in that apartment. It was,
Interesting.
yeah,
I feel like we should, if Steven was available, we'd have him like pop in right now because that's what he deals with, cats that suddenly like, you know, um my Mona hates people but has always hated other people.
mm,
People she's not familiar with. So like we're recording this on Wednesday, February 12th. Thank you. And Monday, the gas company was doing work in my block, and they had to come in and turn off the gas and then turn it back on or something. And then they tested my stove. She jammed herself. She always will jam herself in some space if somebody comes in that she's not familiar with. But that's like her entire life. Your Monday had she just had this like Cujo moment
yes, she did.
where she just,
Yeah. I did have another time as we're talking about it. I had gone away somewhere. I was away I don't remember, but I was away for like a week and a friend was coming in to look after her for me. And the first day that she came to the house, she's like, I can't be here. This cat, like the cat would not let her come in the house, would not let her. Yeah. And like kind of went after her and everything. So I felt
very
awful.
curious. I wonder if it's like fiercely territorial
I don't know. I
or
was so curious that night though, because it wasn't like it was the first time, I had been friends with Paul for many years. She knew him many times, like he was at my house like hundreds of times, it's
and we can, even if Monday was here, a guest on our podcast, which would be awesome by the way.
that would be that if we could make that happen.
Um see there's an that will get edited
Oh,
out.
there you go.
Uh, as much as experts can venture a guess, only the cat knows. We'll never really know. That's why I love cats, is because they always have this like air of mystery.
Yeah,
Even
yeah,
when they're predictable, like my Vance is right here. He wants to sit on the laptop so badly, but I told him not to. Even when they're cool, like your Munch and Delilah, just they're predictable. You never really know what's like in their brains and what triggers them.
Yep. I
And
don't
I
know.
and I mean, unfortunately, you and your friend got scarred up from that. But I find it fascinating that just something just makes them turn like that. But ever since then, when it was just the two of you, she was cool.
It took it wasn't immediate. It took maybe a few months because, like I said, I did bring her in. We got her fixed. That didn't really seem to do anything. And we did a few other things. I don't really, it's so long ago now at this point. It's probably, it's easily 20 years ago at this point that that happened. So, I don't remember all the details, but I know that that with the vet, and after we fixed her, I did go back to the vet, that this doesn't really help. I feel like we might have tried changing her food and some other things, but
Did they ever suggest like medication, like tranquilizers or anything,
no, not at the time.
or the
Not
feel away? They,
the what?
those plug-in diffusers that it's called Feel Away,
Mm,
Feliway.
no.
It's a pheromone it's like one of those Glade plug-in looking things,
Hmm.
um, but it puts out a pheromone that's supposed to chill them out.
Mm. Was that around like 20 years ago?
Probably, yeah, definitely was.
Oh, I don't know. No, that never came up.
I used it with Mr. Arndt with Vance, and I used it with Taylor because Taylor was pretty. It took him a few weeks to completely settle in, but I'm sure it existed in some form. It was a spray at some point,
Yeah.
but I mean, it doesn't matter when you still loved her.
Oh, I did. I did immensely. And, we went through a lot. And what was, aside from that incident, like physically, she was actually very healthy. She was long hair, but she didn't, this was one thing. She never liked cleaning herself. Whereas this cat, Monchichi, that I have now, it's almost 24 hours a day. Like settle down. Legs would trim his own claws. She didn't like licking herself, and I can only assume it was because of the fur. Maybe she got too many fur balls or something, at a point, and just didn't care for that.
So that was your job.
I had to lick her. I did. I
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but she never liked me brushing her either. So it was.
Please tell me
Of
you licked her. Please tell me. Just say you
course, I did not
just
lick
say. Please you did. It's okay. Admit it. You did. Did you ever think about it once? You're like,
No,
no
not
one
even.
will know. There's no podcasting yet. Maybe
Not
I'll
even once.
take.
Did you ever see they have like I'm gonna call it a toy, but it's like a product that you can buy where it's actually a tongue that somehow I guess maybe you put in your mouth, maybe you bite it or whatever, but it's like this large oversized tongue that is intended for you to lick your cat with. It's maybe got a brush or it's got something on the end of it.
My kinky days are over, man. If you want to try that, we're not recording that one, but hey,
But no,
I
she was
have.
pretty healthy. She had a couple of respiratory infections,
I love
and
my cats, but no thanks.
yeah,
I'm not putting an appliance on my tongue.
I'm gonna send you that link. You'll
Again,
oh,
if
that's
anybody listening has tried that, we mean no offense, and you do you, man. That's fine. But you
um,
brought. I didn't mean you licked her. You brushed her. I guess you did all the brushing, and
I tried. She did not let me. I could get a couple of strokes in, and then she'd run. So I tried. It was almost, and it sounds horrible. Sometimes it was almost better because she would get matted because her fur was so long. But sometimes it was almost better to leave it to grow a little bit longer because then it would actually like just start. It would just kind of break off, and like I could just kind of, instead of brushing it off, I could just kind of like remove that little chunk that was matted.
did you
You
ever
know,
get her? Ever get a groom? So I guess she
I
wouldn't.
did. I did. I got her groomed a couple of times, but that's money, and
Yeah,
it's expensive. And considering her behavior, I was never really comfortable bringing her to a place.
yeah,
I was
and
like,
they look weird after they get that. You ever
yeah,
see a Persian with a lion cut where it's like
oh, it's horrible.
the head
It's
and the tail, and they
yeah,
look so depressed afterwards. They're like,
yeah,
"Why did you do this to me?"
yeah. She would come home. We would never do like the full on, lion thing, but it would be trimmed down. And she came home a couple of times with like a little purple bow, and just it was cute. Um,
So she was with you for 20 years,
yeah, yeah.
and she got it as far as where you are now, your current
Yeah, yeah, she was here with
domicile.
me. She was here with me in this house when we moved in. She
Was she a
knew.
big cat?
No, she was kind of a small
She,
cat.
she looks
I,
small in
I
that picture. Yeah.
She's small, and even with that picture, because she's all furry, she looks bigger than she actually was. The fur was a bit of a, made her look larger than she was. No, she was a pretty tiny cat, maybe 10 pounds, maybe 12. I don't know, but a relatively small cat. Um,
What was her favorite food? Did she have one?
uh,
Think back.
no, not really. I mean, I would give her like actual tuna every once in a while. You want to know something funny?
Always.
When I first when I first got her, every so often like the ideas about how to raise animals changes, right? Like, back in the 80s it used to be declaw the cats, right? Now we don't declaw the cats because we know that that's not good. She was never declawed, by the way. But there was a period of time there where it was the idea was that it was okay just to feed your cat, and it was actually preferred to only feed your cat hard food as long as you had plenty of water, which she did. She had plenty of water. And I would give her like tuna juice or like actual tuna every once in a while. But her 100% diet for 20 years was hard food. And she never once had any digestive problems, no kidney problems, none of that.
I have heard. So she never ate wet food.
Occasionally, but it wasn't like,
She
it
didn't.
was
She didn't crave it.
no, no.
I have heard there are some cats that don't like wet food. They don't like the texture or the
Yeah,
taste or the smell
yeah.
because they smell it before they eat it. That's how I used to handle dates. I smelled them first. No,
Excuse
you smell mean, get away. And that's why I'm single. Uh, doesn't always go over well. Now it's like you have 6 cats. That's weird. That's weird. I don't date anymore. But the last time I paid attention, somebody told me that hosting a podcast on cats was weird, and that was for me an instant red flag. But
well, I go through something similar. I chat. Oh, what do you do? Like, I so, among other things, I'm a co-host on a podcast. Oh, that's exciting. What's the podcast about? Well, it's called Shelter Cats, and then they go, huh.
because everybody wants, true crime
I know.
and politics, and we don't talk about true crime. We don't talk about politics.
Right, right.
So
Yeah, there's
yeah,
not.
I get it. They're like, I once got a. There's what for you to talk about? You talk
Yeah,
about cats. What do you talk about? Cats. What about them? Cats. But anyway, I digress.
there's lots to talk about.
I have heard that there are some cats that do not like wet food.
Yeah,
So it's not like the wildest thing ever. It is possible. Then on
yeah.
the other hand, I have heard of some cats that don't like dry food and only eat wet
That's
food.
Yep, yep. So it's whatever your cat is into, really. But no, she lived a long, very, I would say, healthy life. She ultimately, because she had suffered from respiratory infections, so that's really the one thing that over the years, it wasn't constant. It was like maybe every few years or so she'd have an issue. And ultimately that was actually what wound up she passed from that. After being a kitten, once she kind of became a full grown cat, she never really, like, she was never a cuddly cat. And when I was sleeping, she would sleep on my head still, or she'd sleep on my feet, but she would never sit, like, she'd never snuggle in or anything. The last week when she was ill, I had brought her into the vet. We got her antibiotics. We were dealing with the respiratory infection. We were supposed to bring her back if things didn't change by Friday, bring her back in. Well, Thursday night, I'm up, and she was pretty weak, but she was, not totally weak, but just not well, and she's 20, for crying out loud. And I'm like, she hasn't gotten better. I'm going to bring her back tomorrow to the vet. That night she passed in her sleep. And the last gift that she gave me, Dan, she came up and she slept right here.
Oh,
She slept right by my side, and let me sleep with her and let me snuggle with her.
and she passed that night.
She passed that night.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So that
Yep.
was her way of saying I love you and
Yep.
thank you for everything.
And I still, because like I heard she made like a sound that now I know was her passing over. Um, but I wasn't, I'm like, I'm not, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, okay, maybe that wasn't what I think it was. So I actually got her in a crate, hoping maybe it wasn't what I thought it was. And I brought her to an ER vet. It was to a 24-hour ER vet. And what's unfortunate is there's one that's 5 minutes from my house now that I take. I didn't know that one was there. The closest one I knew was in Deer Park, which is about 20 minutes away from my house.
Oh wow.
So I ran to
You
Deer
drove
Park,
like the
drove
Dickens to
all
Deer
the way
Park.
to Deer Park. And when I got there, I'm bawling. I'm just
Of
crying, and
course,
I turn her over, I give her to the tech, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I think she's gone, but I'm not really sure if you can do anything. Let's see what we can do. Unfortunately, she was gone. She had already been gone probably by the time I got her in the crate here. So probably bringing her to this vet wouldn't have made a difference, but it would have been closer anyway. Um, but they were so wonderful at that vet's office that they actually have like a whole room set aside that's basically like a kiss and cry room, where it's set up like a proper, like it's almost like a real, like a funeral home, where like there's like proper seats, there's a TV in there, there's a coffee table. It's just like set up like a lovely comfortable living room. And they allowed me to go in there and sit with her for as long as I wanted before they took her back. And I had her cremated, so she is also in the mausoleum that I have. Um, so, but I was able to sit with her for, I, it felt like I was there for a half hour. I don't know how long I stayed really, but it felt like I was there for a half hour. So, but yeah,
I,
I
I
was,
I think the gift of passing in your home
yeah,
is beautiful. My Tyler passed while I was sleeping,
yeah,
and I think he was also 15 and changed. It's like their final gift to you is, you know, I'm going to make this as seamless as possible and as trouble free for you. It's never trouble free. There's always something frantic
yeah.
you have to do.
No,
That's a
that was,
what a long life. What a beautiful life she
it was
had.
wonderful. And like I said, she was with me. I first got her when I lived in Brentwood, and then I moved to the Bronx where I couldn't have her, and that was for 2 years. And then I was in Dix Hills for a couple years, and then she came to live with me in Dix Hills.
Fancy.
No, it was it was a basement apartment in a little cottage house. It sounds nice.
Excuse me. Well, for those of you not from Long Island, Dix Hills is a snooty part of Suffolk County.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, just to give you an idea, the house was like a little cottage. It was a one-bedroom cottage that was like back set kind of in the woods. And the reason that I had to move out of there eventually was that the owners of the house were selling it, so it was demolished, and a multi-million dollar home was built in its place.
You lived
So
in a
this,
cottage in the woods in Dix Hills.
yeah, I did.
That explains a few things about you. Cool.
It might. But then I was Dix Hills, and then I was in Copeg, and then Farmingdale, and Central Islip. So like all of these places,
You've
you
hit a
know,
lot of Suffolk County, my
I've
friend.
been all over. I've been everywhere, man.
That popped in my head too. I love that.
Yeah,
Michelle a life in Michelle a life in Suffolk County.
multiple, through, like I said, multiple relationships. My dad passed in '99. She was with me through all of that. It's yeah, yeah. She was with me a long time through a lot of stuff, and she was there. I was gonna say though, the week that she passed. So she passed Thursday night into Friday. I had brought her and Quinn. I mentioned Quinn before. I got him when I got legs earlier that year. And Quinn came to us sick. He had severe mites, and to the point where like his flesh was eaten away,
Really?
honestly.
Oh my god.
And just awful. Beautiful, beautiful, sweet, sweet, sweet cat. When Monday, when we determined that she had the respiratory infection and I brought her to the vet, we also brought Quinn in for his final visit. And we put him down that day. So that was maybe Saturday or Monday. I don't remember which day, but Saturday or Monday. And then that same next Friday was when Monday passed away. So within a week, I lost two cats. Quinn, who I never really had much of a chance to get to know, but just the All he wanted was love. All he wanted. That's a, he. So from the moment we got him, he could. He would not. He. If I was sitting on the couch, he had to be on my lap on the couch. He had to be, and legs would come over and push him off. Even though they came together, the legs would come and push him off and try to take over the, take attention or whatever. I never got a chance to really know him, and it was a shame. But there was just nothing that could really be done to
At least
improve his
you
life.
gave him love towards the end. That's also a gift.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
also a gift.
yep. So, yep.
So that is the story of Monday, the
I think
cat.
I'm pretty sure that that's the whole story of Monday. Are there any other anecdotes? No, I mean she was an indoor cat her whole life. She never really got out or tried to get out, so she was good like that.
Sounds like just a wonderful life to live 20 years.
Yeah, yeah.
In the face of Cujo isms and
I'll be
respiratory.
honest, she's lucky she made it past that year because that was a rough year.
It's a great story. I'm glad we got to know the story of Monday. Monday. This episode is for you.
Yeah.
And if you ever looking to, if you ever you get a kitten, and sometimes people will post on social media or Reddit, what should I name this cat?
Yeah. Hmm.
Sometimes just pick the day you adopted the cat
That's it.
because
Simple
you
enough.
got her on a Monday. And thank you, Melissa, our illustrious holiday guest from the great city of Albany. Um,
You were right the first time. Albany.
Albany. My Canadian
Albany.
relatives say Albany.
Albany.
Albany. I know. Excuse me. Sorry. We're not all actors. I'll pronounce it any way I want.
Mm,
Um,
fine.
so it's just sometimes just pick the day of the week.
Yep. And I actually, after I got her, I've met two other people in my life that had cats. One was named Friday and one was named Tuesday.
Those are awesome names for
So there you go.
cats.
You know?
If you're looking for a name for a cat and you're racking your brain and you're asking your friends and you're posting on social media, sometimes just pick the day of the week.
And how great of a name would Wednesday be for like an all black cat,
Perfect.
right?
Perfect.
Your moody little spooky black cat, name it Wednesday. Why
Your
not?
next tuxedo cat, and it will be a tuxedo cat.
It's bound to be.
Maybe that's the name. So that was the story of Monday the cat. An
Yep.
awesome cat who lived 20 years, fought through adversity, fought through mood swings, fought through friends of yours that she didn't probably get in life,
Yeah.
and lived an awesome life. That's when they see you through so many changes in your life, and Tyler the same thing. He saw me through to this point,
Yeah.
and Tucker saw me through to this point as well. Where I'm a happy bachelor and a podcast host. When they, you
Hmm.
know, you don't realize how much you kind of lean on them and rely on them, and
Absolutely.
through their own kind of cosmic cat ways. That's why this podcast exists. Regular, everyday, run of the mill, non shopped but adopted cats can do extraordinary things. And that was the whole point. Monday did extraordinary things, saw you through so many points of your life. You lived in every single town in Suffolk County, apparently.
Almost.
And,
Feels like it.
and she, she had a little map in her little box. Will she pick a fucking town already? So
I landed the last two. So this I'm here in my house 11 years, 12 years, and I was in Farmingdale for 11 years. So those were pretty steady. It was
what?
the before that was
I get it.
I didn't know where I wanted to be.
I'm here almost 11 years. Before that, I was a decade in Glen Cove,
Hmm.
and then before that, I was 20 something years in
In Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. That's
Yeah.
base. That's me. That's me in a nutshell. Three places.
But we didn't even talk about where I lived before I got her.
That'll be another episode. If you ever do a meet and greet. So thank you very much. Not quite the episode we planned, but we have some wonderful, wonderful content coming up. We're going to
Yeah.
be talking to all sorts of people, from authors to walking tour hosts to an awesome YouTube channel that that I think would be a great fit to. We're going to have Barista Cats Cafe. They'll be coming back soon. A couple of great authors. We have some great, great content coming up. So we thank you so much for your supporting us, for listening,
Yes,
and
thank you.
I'll have the link tree. I don't do the preamble anymore of where you could find us. I put the link tree link at the end, so you'll find the link tree in the description or at the end of the video or in the podcast description. Find us everywhere on social media. Please comment, and subscribe, and share us with your friends. And adopt. Don't shop, because right now there's a cat sitting in a shelter waiting for you to take them home to make an awesome cat. Another Monday is out there somewhere. Another Tyler, another Vance,
Mm-hmm.
another Sophie. Sophie is there. And we'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.
Bye.